Hey kids, this is going to be a more in-depth video that's going to explore a bunch of the buttons that you might use in this class. If you are looking just to print and you forgot, there is a completely separate video for you. Let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at this program. If you are the first person to open it up for the day, congratulations, and I am super happy that you are passionate about this class. You will probably see this box. These are just different tips. You can hit next and it'll cycle through a bunch. My favorite, of course, is a barking dog never bites. Tell that to Ollie. You can go ahead and just close this box out. In fact, we really never need to see this again. This brings up your workspace for UltraFlex. There are a couple things I want to point out to it, specifically this box over here. This is Design Central. This is the real heart of the program and really where you're going to spend a lot of your time at. If Design Central is not up when you get to the computer, you can hit this box right here or simply hit Control-I. Looking at the program over here, we have several different ribbons. This one is your basic save, open, everything you'd see there, but it also has a cut plot we'll get to a little later. The next two boxes we don't really use in this class, and the swatch tab is just this bottom swatch tab down here. These are the two ribbons you'll probably use the most. The first one is the arrow or select tool. You'll use this to manipulate your image and move it around. In fact, this is probably a good time to load up an image because a lot of these features do not work without an image. When you open your graphic, go File, Open, find the image you want. I'm going to work off the same Avengers file we did from the last lesson. I'm going to click on that. First box you're always going to see pop up is your units box. Inches is probably what we all know the best, but you can do any other measurement if you like. Hit OK, and that'll bring up your image. Once we have our image up, you'll notice that the Design Central did change. I want to highlight what it is actually telling you about right now. A common mistake I see is students wanting to put their numbers in right here. If you do, though, that deals with the properties box around the image. So if I change this to, say, 5 by 5, you'll see that's actually shrinking this box right here, not my image. My image is still here if we zoom out. Selecting an image, you can do two ways. We can do Edit, Select, Select All, or you can hit Control-A. Once you do that, that'll select everything that is on the page. Please take a moment and check your image here. Sometimes you might have a rogue line that you moved or something else here that gets selected with it. It's just helpful to see. Our box has also changed. You'll now see that we have a width and height parameter along with X and Y positions. In UltraFlex, we really rarely ever use X and Y, so you really don't have to pay too much attention to it. The height and width here will let you size your image. I am working with a 10-inch by 10-inch piece of vinyl, and I don't want this too big, so I'm going to print mine out roughly 6-ish inches. This image is almost a perfect box, so I really only have to change one number. You don't have to type inches or anything in because we selected at the beginning, so you can just hit enter. The second measurement should change. That's because you have the proportional button checked. Images are always ratios. You never really want to get out of this proportions. That's when images can look real weird. Well, what do you mean? Let's take a look at that. Let's zoom in on our image. A very helpful tool right here is our Zoom to Selected. If you click on that, this will zoom the image so it fits up almost all of the screen right here. If we take off the proportional, let's say you wanted this to be 6 by 8, you can see it'll start stretching out this image or squishing the image. Either way, it's going to do a bunch of things we don't want to happen to this image. Most of the time, you're going to keep this clicked, but again, there are the reasons we would do that. If for some reason you do uncheck the proportional button, please check it again when you're done. That'll just help the person behind you. It doesn't default back. So usually the next person behind you in line jumps on the computer and then they can't figure out why their image won't look right. We can do a bunch of stuff to this image now we have it selected. If you do notice that there is a line or something that needs to be edited, this right here, the select button right here, will bring up this in Design Central. You'll notice this will bring up different ribbons. If I go up to View Toolbars, I can click the Path Edit, and it'll bring up this toolbar, which is the same here. You can always long press on any of these tools and it'll bring up these giant ribbons. So if I click on this and just hold the mouse key down, it'll bring it up. Once that's done, when you select something else, it'll go away. If I hold on to select, it'll bring up another one. So again, if that toolbar is in there, just long holding the mouse button will bring it up. This, we can do a bunch of different things here. We can stretch lines, we can add and remove nodes. The one you'll probably use the most in here is either optimize curve or arc. In this one, you select 2 different points between a node, and then you can change the arc of it. Usually this should all be done within Inkscape. Any of these tools are really for last minute edits. Below the arrow is a text toolbar. When we get to the text project, or if you've had the text project, you know that text is usually far easier to do on UltraFlex than Inkscape because you can just type it out. There's no extra steps of path union. Text toolbar brings up its options here over in Design Central. I can type whatever I like. And edit whether it is the different types of fonts out there. And there is a bunch loaded on here. You can also set the type. These are like bold, italic, all those different things. Not all fonts have types, so you have to look through to find what you want. The next couple of things deal with the different letters. We can change the spacing, the size, its skew, you name it, we can do it. Usually you have to select your font to do anything to it. Here's the skew. I can make the spacing in between, make it larger and smaller. It is really powerful what you can do here, so feel free to play around. Once you get the font you like, there's really nothing else to do. You can just set it in the image where you would like. Again, there is no path union. Moving down, we do have an auto trace feature on UltraFlex. I would not recommend using this. If you get up to the computer and you just have an image and you try to edit it, the other students might get a little testy with you. Images should always be traced on Inkscape, saved as a DXF, moved over to UltraFlex. We really never do the weld button. This deals more with just linking images. The measure button, you should be measuring the vinyl, not the image. The other toolbar you'll see a lot of is this right here. This deals all with your zooming. We have a zoom box that will just zoom into whatever's there. Your plus and minus will zoom in and out. And then my favorite, the zoom to selected. It'll zoom to whatever is selected completely. This right here pretty much covers most of the things that you'll use in this class. Anything more specific, feel free to come talk to me about and I'll give you a better answer. I'm going to get rid of my font here and just deal with my image for the next one. Remember, the image has to be selected in order to cut. So go ahead and hit Control A. That'll select the entire image. Another check on our numbers to make sure it is what we put in. At that point, we're going to go up here to our cut plot. We're going to click on this, and this is going to bring up Production Manager. This is where we lay out our graphic right before we print it. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the features. First is material. We'll come back to that in a second. Second is our position. We can actually move this off of our origin if we'd like to. And we have another size feature here. I would really recommend against doing anything here. Once you start changing the sizes, you will start changing the percentages as well. When the person behind you goes to cut, this won't default back to 100%, so their numbers will end up a little wonky. If you really need to, you can, but again, just make sure that is back to 100%. We can make a bunch of copies if we like, and this really goes together with the material size. Let's say we wanted to make right now 50 of these Avenger logos. It is 6 inches by 6 inches. First thing I need to know is which vinyl roll I'm using. They come in different sizes in this class. Some are 10 inches, some are 15 inches, some are 24 inches wide. Let's say you pick the 24-inch one. That means you could get 3 across on a side. That's roughly about 19 inches. If we didn't set up this material size, and let's just say we went and put 50 in, this now would print well off the vinyl. So if we set up our material size, said this is 24 inches wide, now you can see it'll print 3 across. That means we can just put it on the roll and let it cut, cut, and cut. So if you ever want to make copies, you do have to set up your material sizes. Usually though, if you're just using scraps or small pieces, you can leave it to whatever. Down here, there's 2 buttons you really have to worry about. The first one is the rotate. We use this quite frequently. This will make the image rotate in different directions. This has to be oriented to how your vinyl is in. So if your vinyl is horizontal, make sure that your graphic is laid out as such, and vice versa. If it's vertical, make sure it's in a vertical position. This will rotate through. Really with an image, it's just making the person stand up or go to sleep. The F button here is actually really neat. This is used if you want to put something on the inside of a window or some clear surface. This will take your image and mirror it. So for example, let's say you wanted to put your favorite sports team on the inside of your car. Well, you don't want it on the outside of the car because with all the snow and ice over here, it wouldn't last as long. So we could lay out our graphic normally, and then when we get to actually printing it, we just hit this little F. It'll reverse the image, and then we can apply it on the inside, and it'll look like we meant to do that. Other things here, panel deals with the size or padding around the image. Sometimes you want to increase this. Almost all the time, not you really want to worry about. Over here, this deals with the weeding. Weeding is the removing of materials. Easy Weed puts a bunch of vertical lines into it and horizontal. Or you could just select horizontal and vertical. We do the weed border. That basically makes a box around your image. If for some reason you're not getting a box around your image, it is probably because somebody unchecked this. Advanced, you're never really going to worry about, so we're not really going to cover it too much in here. That's really the basics. At this point, I would double check to make sure that my sizes right here will fit on the vinyl that I'm about to print. Once I got it loaded in the machine and I make sure the set origin or green light is on, I can go down here and hit send. We're going to cover pilling out and weeding a vinyl in our next video. Hopefully you found this very valuable. As always, if you have any questions, please come and see me. Good job, kids. I cannot wait to see what you're going to make.